Good day everyone, this is Jennifer Casabar. Welcome back to my channel. Our topic for this video is all about the questionnaire. First, I will show to you the contents of our discussion. We have the questionnaire, we have the steps in preparation of questionnaire, we have interview, types of classes, types or classes of interviews, steps to be followed during interview, what to avoid in interviews, observation, purposes of observation, and characteristics of observation for research purposes. First, we will discuss what is a questionnaire. A questionnaire is a list of planned, written questions related to a particular topic with space provided for indicating the response to each question. It is intended for submission to a number of persons for reply. It is commonly used in normative survey studies and in the measurement of attitudes and opinions. Okay? It is very important that when you're conducting a research, you have with you your questionnaire. A questionnaire is simply a set of questions from the word itself, questionnaire. Okay? It is a set of questions which, when answered properly by the required number of properly selected respondents, will supply the necessary information needed to complete the research study. The questionnaire is commonly used in behavioral research or social researches. Okay? Questionnaire particularly, okay, related dapat yan doon sa mismong topic or research problem wherein merong mga space provided kung saan mag-indicate po ng response or sagot yung ating mga respondents. Okay? For example is checklists or is scale ang nakalagay doon sa questionnaire mo. So, when you are going to make your questionnaire, there will be columns. Okay? In that columns, ito yung questions mo. And then, after that, ito yung mga skills mo. For example, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Yung questions and then your skills. Okay? Doon magre-respond kung 4, 3, 2, 1 ba ang sagot ng ating respondents. Depende po yan doon sa particular topic na iyong ipinapasagot doon sa respondents mo. Okay? So, what are the steps in preparation of a questionnaire? Of course, you need to have a library research. Okay? Library research because you're going to research about related topics and related studies about your research. Okay? You need to talk to knowledgeable people or person. Kasi po, dapat po maging valid ang questionnaire mo bago mo yan i-administer. Number 3, mastering the guidelines. Number 4, writing the questionnaire. After writing the questionnaire, kapag ka napacheck mo na po yan dun sa mga knowledgeable person, you can edit the questionnaire. And then after that, after editing, you can rewrite the questionnaire and then you can conduct pre-tests of the questionnaire. Okay, after conducting pre-test, you can now write the questionnaire in its final form. Okay? Next, let's move on to interview. Okay, actually, napaka-short lang talaga tong chapter na ito. We're just pertaining to questionnaire, interview, and observation. 3 major topics for this video. Interview is one of the major techniques in gathering data or information. It is defined as a purposeful face-to-face relationship between two persons, one of whom called the interviewer, who asks questions to gather information, and the other called as the interviewee or the respondent who supplies the information asked for. Okay? In the interview, there are two persons involved, interviewer and the interviewee. So, interviewer, siya yung taga-tanong. Interviewee, siya po yung magre-response doon sa mga tanong. Okay? We all know that interview is generally a qualitative research. Okay? Take note, qualitative research or qualitative research technique. This involves asking of questions, open-ended questions to converse with the respondents and collect illicit data about your subject or research. What are the types or classes of interviews? So number one, we have standardized interview. Standardized interview, in this type of interview, the interviewer is not allowed to change the specific wordings of the question in the interview schedule. He must conduct all interviews in precisely the same manner, and he cannot adapt questions for a specific situation or pursue statements in order to add something to the data. This is the same as the so-called formal interview. So take note, standardized interview is also known as formal interview, wherein ang ating interviewer or yung ating taga-tanong ay hindi po pwedeng baguhin yung mga nakaset na interview schedule or interview questions. Hindi din po siya pwedeng mag-adapt ng mga pangyayari. Okay? What if ganito or bakit si ganito? Okay? No, he cannot adapt questions or situations para lamang mag-add something dun sa kanyang data. That is standardized interview or formal interview. Next, we have non-standardized interview. For non-standardized interview, in this type, the interviewer has complete freedom to develop each interview in the most appropriate manner for each situation. He is not held to any specific questions. He may revise, add to, or subtract from the interview schedule that which he thinks is best for the situation. This is the same as the so-called informal interview. So, para siyang opposite ng standardized interview wherein in this type of interview, yung interviewee or interviewer natin rather, ay pwede niyang baguhin, dagdagan, or bawasan yung mga tanong doon sa interview schedule. Kung saan, palagay niya, mas magiging maayos yung situation. Okay? Next, we have semi-standardized interview. The interviewer is required to ask number of specific major questions, and beyond this, he is free to probe as he chooses. These are prepared principal questions to be asked, and once these are asked and answered, the interpreter is free to ask questions as he sees fit for the situation. Kumbaga, sa semi-standardized interview, meron ng prepared na 5 major or 5 or more major topics, and then pagka nasagutan na yan ng respondent natin or nung interviewee, meron na pong decision or decision ng ating interviewer na mag-develop pa or mag-follow up question pa doon sa kanyang interviewee wherein he sees na mas mag-fit siya doon sa situation. Okay? Number 5 is focus interview. For focus interview, this is also called as in-depth interview or depth interview. This is similar to non-standardized interview in which there is no required questions should be asked by the interviewer. The researcher asks a series of questions based on his previous understanding and insight of the situation. Specific attention is given to specific topics or ideas. The interviewer is focused on specific topics that are to be investigated in depth. The interviewer is thus able to direct the questioning to discover the kinds of backgrounds and experiences from experiences that happen influence the subject. So, for focus interview, para siyang kaparehas din lang ng semi-standardized wherein wala pong required na questions ang natatanungin ng interviewer. So, nakadepende lamang po ang question doon kay interviewer or doon kay researcher na related po doon sa kanyang understanding and insight doon sa situation. Depende na po sa interview. And lastly, we have non-directive interview. In this type of interview, the interviewee or subject is allowed and even encouraged to express his feelings without fear or disapproval. The subject can express his feelings or views on a certain topics even without waiting to be questioned or even without pressure from the interviewer. So, ibig sabihin, the interviewee does most of the talking. So, hindi masyadong nagsasalita dito yung mga interviewer. Rather, mas nagbibigay po ng information talaga yung interviewee, yung respondents. Let him talk so that you can gather and collect data from your subject. Okay? So, what are the subjects or steps, rather, to be followed during interview? Of course, we have planning or preparatory step. Planning, we all know that this is very crucial in every circumstances. Okay? Because if you are prepared enough to conduct the interview, then you will be having a successful result. Number 2, select the place for interview. Of course, the place should be comfortable on the part of the interviewer and, of course, on the part of the interviewee. Number 3, establish rapport, so be friendly as the interviewer. Carrying out the interview. Number 5, recording the interview. Then after that is closing the interview. So, what to avoid in interviews? Ano ba yung mga dapat na i-avoid natin or wag nating gawin when we are conducting interviews? Number 1, avoid exerting undue pressure upon a respondent to make him participate in an interview. So, wag nating i-pressure yung ating respondent. Avoid disagreeing or arguing with or contradicting the respondents. I-avoid po natin na mag-disagree or makipag-argue kung ano man po yung isasagot ng ating respondent. Kasi nga, di ba, yun nga yung kanyang insights. Avoid unduly pressing the respondents to make a reply. So, yun nga, wag nating i-pressure. Number 4, avoid using language well over and above the ability of the respondents to understand. Alam mo naman na elementary graduate lang tapos nag-English ka pa. Okay? Ikaw mag-adjust. Dapat naka-align po siya sa ability ng respondents. Avoid talking irrelevant matters. Kung hindi naman po related doon sa topic ninyo, wag mo pong tanungin. Kamusta na yung asawa mo, yung mga anak mo, nag-aaral ba? Okay, wag pong ganon. Dapat related lang po sa topic ninyo. Avoid placing the interviewee in embarrassing situations. Wag naman po yung sa instance na parang napapahiya na yung pakiramdam niya. Okay, yung parang natatapakan mo na yung kanyang ego. Avoid appearing too high above the respondent in education, knowledge, and social status. Wag pong masyadong mapagmataas. Okay, dapat po ikaw po yung mag-adjust doon po sa standard or doon po sa situation po ng respondent mo. And also, avoid interviewing the respondent in an unholy hour. Pag sinabing unholy hour, yan po yung mga malapit ng mag-midnight or even madaling araw. Unholy hour na po yun. Okay? Next, observation. Last topic. Observation as a means of gathering information for research may be defined as perceiving data through the senses, kagaya po ng sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. Pero, sense of sight is the most used among the senses. Kaya nga po, observation, talaga yung ating sight ang pinaka-ginagamit na senses when we are pertaining to observation. Observation is the most direct way and the most widely used in studying behavior. Okay? Observation is a systematic data collection approach wherein the researcher will use all of his or her senses, which is to examine people in natural setting or naturally occurring situations. And lastly, what are the characteristics of observation for research purposes? Of course, observation is specific. Siyempre, diba, direct yan. Direct mong nakikita. Of course, mas specific po yung mga nabibigay mong data or information. Observation is systematic or the so-called system or organized. Okay? Observation is quantitative. Kasi nga, di ba, specific. So, pwede mo siyang i-specify kung gaano karami. Okay? Observation is recorded immediately. Observation is done by an expert, and also, observation results can be checked and verified. Pwede mo yung i-follow up through observation. Okay? So, that's the end of our discussion for this video. Talagang napaka-short lang siya. Kasi nga, di ba, just 3 topics. You have questionnaire, interview, and observation. If I am not mistaken, this is the second to the last topic of our book for the entire semester of the subject Criminological Research 1. Okay? That's all for today. So, thank you and stay safe.